actually on location. We did this interview with Jonathan Mckee a couple weeks ago. I got to catch up with him on his new book, The Bullying Breakthrough. This is Bullying Awareness Week, and it's an ongoing issue, Greg.
It is terrible, you know, and just even not that long ago found out how bullied one of my daughters was in school, and I was shocked. And of course, like a dad, when I'm hearing this, just all that emotion rises up. So I know Jonathan, he's a great communicator, and we're looking forward to that.
He did a great study. So he's looking at the perspective of someone who has been bullied, the bully, as well as the bystander. So again, this is going to be a great interview that you want to maybe log on to Huntley.com, 100Huntley.com after, share it with some friends, show it to your kids. If you are someone who has been bullied, this is going to definitely resonate with you too.
Yeah, we look forward to that. And again, we want to make a difference, you know, and shed light right across our country. An important interview with Jonathan coming up later. Hey, we've also got podcaster and speaker Danielle Strickland. She's been here all week long with us. And, you know, Maggie, we've been really enjoying her words of encouragement, you know, for people who feel lost or forgotten. And unfortunately, in our culture, there's a lot of people in that category.
Absolutely. Today, we're featuring another excerpt from our healing series. We'll meet Reverend Paul Teske, a Lutheran minister who was paralyzed by a stroke. Stay tuned. You'll want to hear more of this miraculous story.
It is amazing. But first, we're going to start off with your conversation on location with Jonathan Mckee.
Remember when bullying stayed at the playgrounds? Kids would go home and then they were free to be who they were. Well, with social media, bullying continues far after everybody's left the school grounds. Social media is one of those detriments. 1.1 million people in Canada alone have been cyberbullied or cyber stalked. Jonathan Mckee, our guest today, says this is an important topic, probably one of the most important topics he's ever written about. Thanks for coming back.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you did a study.
Yeah.
And you studied bullies, people that were bullied, as well as bystanders. What did you find?
You know, it was interesting. As I went to start the study, my thought was, how can we help these kids who are picked on? But the more I started interviewing young people, I found there's really three types of young people out there that are dealing with this bullying epidemic. And it's just, you know, not only the kid being bullied, but also the bully and then the bystander. The people that are kind of caught in the, do I laugh? You know, do I, stand up and say something, or what do I do? And the thing I found is that all three groups really are struggling and really could use some help from moms, dads, and teachers. So I ended up more focusing on the book, just saying, hey, this isn't just to help kids who are bullied, but I tell you, there's nobody with lower self-esteem than a bully, you know, who is literally trying to raise themselves up by making other people feel lower. So this is an important topic, and especially now that we've got these devices in our pocket that connect us 24/7 and put us basically constantly in front of an audience. Everything we do, everything we post is now rated. It's either liked or not and commented about. And so bullying is now 24/7. And it's a tough world for young people to grow up in.
Yeah, you share your story of being bullied. What do you think, you alluded to it, the fact that now we have social media. If there was social media back when you were being bullied, what do you think would have happened?
Well, the scary thing is, I mean, you and I probably maybe experienced, you know, teasing or tough times. Everybody has tough times at the time, but at least when that bell rang after school, you know, we could go home and for a lot of people, go to a safe place, at least till the next morning at 7:30 in the morning. But now, as soon as young people leave that campus, they enter a whole new world, the world that they carry there in their pocket. And in that world, you know, they're walking around with this real-time self-esteem barometer that basically tells them exactly how liked they are, you know, exactly how they're doing at that very moment. And you can always find somebody more popular than you. You can always find somebody whose post is going more viral than yours. And that's why we're seeing unprecedented amounts of anxiety and depression. Teen suicide among teenage girls is an all-time high right now. And it's because a lot of them, I think there's this comparison going on. With bullying specifically, it's tough because now we have kids that don't feel good about themselves, and on social media they have an opportunity to even anonymously jump in and just ridicule people with no accountability. So it's a tough world our kids are growing up in.
I thought it was fascinating. In your book, you said that when you were talking to some young people, they wouldn't consider what we would consider cyberbullying as cyberbullying. So like they just think when I post something online, I'm going to get comments, I'm going to get haters, I'm going to get people that like me, but they wouldn't really consider it bullying.
Yeah, for them it's kind of real life, and if they think about it, they know it hurts, they know they don't like it, but they're like, haters gonna hate, you know?
Right.
I mean, this is the world we live in, and it's sad, but they know if there's a YouTube, you know, on there, it doesn't matter how good of a singer they are, somebody's gonna be like, you sound like a dying whale,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, this is just the reality we live in, and so they realize that, but it's not like they're immune to it. It's definitely affecting them, because like I said, we're seeing the numbers going up on the depression and the anxiety and everything, so it's the norm for them, but they don't necessarily like that norm.
Tell me Mallory's story. As I read her story in your book, I thought it just hit me because here's a young girl just looking for acceptance.
Yeah, it's a true story about a young girl in New Jersey, 12 years old, who was, you know, dealing with bullying, and the poor parents didn't know what to do. And, you know, well, let's go talk with the principal. And she's all, no, that's just going to make it worse. And we see this again and again. And in so many of the different interviews I did with young people who are experiencing bullying, we saw that with don't say anything. You're going to make it worse. Literally, some of these stories, when the principal, they would meet with the principal, moments later, all of a sudden in the bathroom, there'd be some girls saying, we heard you told the principal, and if you do it again, you're going to get it. I mean, this stuff happens all the time. And with this young girl, she was being so blasted on social media, she took her own life.
At 12.
12 years old.
Yeah.
And this is a tough one for parents because there's this pressure, and you know, I mean, your kid is 12.
He's 12, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and you know, when Ethan comes up to you and says, all my friends have cell phones, all my friends are on Snapchat, all my friends are on Instagram, you know, and you know that for them to be on Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok or any of these things, they're asked that question, enter your birth date, and if you're under 13, you have to lie about your age. So the crazy thing is, and the one thing I tell parents all the time is, guess what? Your kids aren't even supposed to be on social media, you know? So, but yet we hear all these stories of 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds being blasted on social media, and they're not even supposed to be on it. So that's one thing parents can do. They can kind of save that pain, or I should say at least delay that pain a little bit. And believe it or not, you know, when our kids are 14 or 16, they're a little more mature and a little more equipped to deal with this than a 10 or 11-year-old who's basically on display, like they're walking around like an 80s celebrity with cameras always on them. And that's the way life is on social media.
Okay, so many more questions, but we're going to take a quick break. We will return with more with Jonathan Mckee. Stay with us.
This generation, more than any other generation, wants to make an impact. They actually care down deep. And if we can let them know and expose them to what's going on, that's huge.
You know, these devices are so powerful. You know, you get information, entertainment, you can, you know, stay connected with your family. It's just amazing, but it also can be a very dark place. We're talking about cyberbullying today, and it's hard to believe more than 1 million Canadians are being cyberbullied. Now, maybe you're the parent of somebody that is being bullied, you know, or maybe you're the parent of somebody that is bullying, and you just say, I don't know where to go. Well, we have got great prayer partners at 1-866-273-4444 that will pray with you, encourage you, and it can even point you in the right direction of counselors that are experts in that field, because, you know, we just want to see people get healed and whole, and children don't have to deal with these kinds of difficult situations, or even adults. Again, 1-866-273-4444. And maybe you're feeling like you want that anonymity, and, you know, as you email us, you can do that too at prayer@crossroads.ca. Well, let's continue on with Maggie's important conversation, part 2, with Jonathan Mckee.
We're back with our friend Jonathan Mckee, and the name of his great new book is The Bullying Breakthrough: Real Help for Parents and Teachers of the Bullied, Bystanders, and Bullies. So, you know, one thing that you've talked about, Jonathan, is, you know, kids don't want us to get involved with, you know, if they're being bullied. But Mama Bear comes out of me, and I'm like, I need to defend my little pup. I need to defend Ethan and Joshua. So how do we not do that?
Yeah, no, again, you know, it's like, earlier you asked me, well, what can we do if there's only one thing we could do?
Yeah.
And definitely the most important thing we could do is that empathetic listening. It's that listening to their story and saying, wow, I'm so glad you told me. Thank you for telling me. But that doesn't mean it's got to stop right there. It's like, every time you're like, why? I need some help,
Right.
So, no, I hear you. This must be painful. Good luck. No, there's some things we could do as parents because, but it starts with listening. And sadly, what parents usually do is they jump straight to the overreaction, the freaking out, this and that. But no, once we've listened and we've heard that story, there's definitely things we can do. As a matter of fact, that's why I included a whole chapter on how to talk to that principal, you know, and do that and have those meetings because it is okay. There's a time where sometimes we need to go, no, enough is enough. But we can be careful as we go into that meeting and not be all emotional and irrational, but and be ready for that. Also, there's things we can do to help build our kids' self-esteem. Really what this is coming down to is our kid is feeling alone, isolated, bad about themselves. So we need to find, by noticing what they're good at, noticing places where they do feel like they open up, and maximize those opportunities where, man, if my kid's good at art, my kid's good at drawing, I want to find opportunities where they can use that art, maybe where they can even help others, maybe take them to an art class or where they can even help younger kids with art. When they serve, not only serve, but use their gifts, use their abilities where they're actually praised. Wow, that's awesome, you're good at this. We want to be able to take those situations and expose them to basically these arenas where they feel good about themselves. So self-esteem is a huge part of this, and making them feel good. Parents also sometimes will enroll them in kind of sports and stuff, and I think we got to be careful there because sometimes, well, let me enroll my son in karate or wrestling, and you just drop your kid off at the door. You have no idea what's going on inside. It might be a good situation, might be not. Some of our kids don't want to do karate. They don't want to do wrestling. So it's really finding what do they like, what do they enjoy, where are they going to flourish, where are they going to also maybe meet some other kids like them that they could bond with, because the research out there shows that if they have just one friend, that can make a world of difference in their life.
I love you have 10 tools to help bullied kids. And, one is don't freak out, as you said. Step into their world. Seek settings where they open up. Be proactive about building identity. Give them a chance to serve, as you said. 6, build confidence and character. Dodge danger zones, i.e. your kid is not an athlete, as you said. Teach good social skills. Teach forgiveness. Get support for yourself as a parent as well. That's key. Get support for yourself as well. Because
we sometimes feel like we're going mad. We feel like we're going insane. And so to be able to, and I had this one parent that was a good friend, and she said, I went to social media and posted, hey, I'm struggling, can I have some prayer? And she said she was so overwhelmed with support there through social media. Hey, social media has some good, and we need to gather people around us in prayer. When my son was going through it, I, at the time, sent out this email blast to all my friends that said, pray for us. And again, people just gathered around us and asked, how's Alec? How's it going? And we actually had someone who called and said, hey, I know of a school near you. And we ended up finding a better school for him through me reaching out to friends because someone had a contact.
This stat just astounded me. By the end of 2017, almost every study on anxiety, depression, and teen suicide cited the smartphone as a key factor.
Absolutely.
Literally, the phone in everybody's pocket or everybody's purse was the symptom for all of these things.
Yeah, and Jean Twenge does a bunch of research on this. She's out of in SoCal, and she wrote the book, iGen, and all of her research is just amazing and eye-opening to the fact that the more time young people spend on social media, the more depressed they become. And that's where we just need to kind of look, because you know what? She's not alone in that research. Most every expert in the area is showing that when we're trying to bond through, social media and we're not getting that real face-to-face connection, there's a problem, and there's depression and all kinds of stuff that happens. And that's why we as parents, we need to provide lots of that face-to-face interaction and look for arenas where our kids can have face-to-face interaction with peers that are like them and engage in the kind of activities they like to engage in.
Let's talk about the bully, because I found it interesting through your studies and through the book that some of the bullies said, I didn't realize I was a bully.
Yeah.
Which I find like how did you not know when the kid that you're making fun of is leaving crying?
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I mean, we have different, basically, we have different clubs, we have different groups where kids hang out together. And if you think of sports, for example, in the sports world, you jaw at each other, you mess with each other, I mean, think of baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, you're supposed to, yell at the batter and do this kind of stuff.
Basketball too,
yeah,
right?
so this kind of banter and stuff almost seems acceptable, and so what ends up happening is very often, sometimes some people thought, oh, I just thought it was just fun banter. I didn't realize that this kid was going home crying. So a lot of this is where we as parents, where we as teachers can help educate a little bit and let kids know, one, they can absolutely make the difference in another kid's life. Yeah. This generation, more than any other generation, wants to make an impact. They actually care down deep. And if we can let them know and expose them to what's going on, that's huge. That's why I wrote that novel, Bystanders, because I wanted people to step into the shoes of a kid that was bullied so bad that it pushed him over the tipping point. I wanted them to realize what it was like. And a lot of us just stand by because not only do we not know what to do, but a lot of us, we don't even realize how much it's affecting this kid. Yeah. And if we can allow kids to step into the shoes of another kid and go, what's it like to be Brett? What's it like to be this kid every day? That's the first step towards them being able to make a difference.
Okay, this is a must-get book for all you parents out there. If your child isn't being bullied, maybe you know of a neighbor or somebody that needs to get this book. It's called The Bullying Breakthrough: Real Help for Parents and Teachers of the Bullied, Bystanders, and Bullies. And maybe you're watching, and I know a lot of young kids watch, a lot of teenagers watch, and maybe you are being bullied right now. Could I encourage you to call our prayer lines? We have amazing prayer partners that would love to pray with you. As Jonathan said, prayer is sometimes one of the biggest things as you might be going through a struggle of just trying to fit into your school or your classroom. Know that amazing people love you on that other line and they'd love to pray with you. The number's at the bottom of our screen. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Get inspired with daily Advent devotionals on hope, peace, joy, and love. Go to crossroads.ca/Advent right now and sign up for your free daily Advent emails.
Hey, I want to thank you for your support of 100 Huntley Street and all we do at Crossroads, so we can tell amazing, life-transforming stories of how God changes lives, and also cover important topics like Maggie and Jonathan just did with cyberbullying. And because of your support of this ministry, we're able to do that. And we also want to, as partners, we so value your support because we're all in this together. It's not just Maggie and I and Cheryl and Lorna and the rest of our team. It's all of us together. So thank you again for all you're doing. And because you're a partner, we want to get you this Reach magazine, where you can find out some of the things that are going on behind the scenes, some of the dreams, the visions that we have in terms of taking this amazing message of hope right across our country and around the world. So go online to crossroads.ca and get your Reach magazine today. And also, we're getting into the Christmas season. We have the Advent devotional. So starting on December 1st, right through in Christmas Day, you can have a devotional each day by our team here. So, what does a Lutheran pastor and faith healer Benny Hinn have in common? It's a good question. Well, our next story in our healing series, we'll find out. And it's an amazing journey that Paul Teskey went on, and he is very passionate about praying for healing. Here's an excerpt from his story.
From 1994 to 2004, I was on a journey. I was studying the Bible. Passages were coming to mind, like in James when he says, if anyone's sick, have the elders anoint him with oil. So I started doing that. So in over a 10-year period, I saw 4 people heal. And then in 2004, while I'm talking to 200 businessmen at a conference, I had a cerebral hemorrhage and I was paralyzed on my left side immediately. I mean, it was like a light switch went off. One minute I could shift my weight, and the next minute I was completely paralyzed on my left side. Very sobering moment and confusing. So while I'm in the hospital, God told me very definitively through the Word, through His Word, that He was going to heal me in 21 days. And then all of a sudden during the worship, my whole body started shaking like a jackhammer. It was just like up and down. And Rivers, my wife Rivers, said, "What's going on?" I said, I think God's healing me. And he says, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm a Lutheran minister." And he said, "Do Lutherans believe in healing?" I said, "Well, I do. I came here tonight paralyzed. I'm completely healed." And then he said, "Well, the reason I called you up here is because God is going to give you and your wife a healing man. Do you have a church?" And I said, "Yeah, in Connecticut." And he said, "Well, people will be healing your church this Sunday and thousands will be healed." So the long story made short, I was completely healed. I went back to my church. That Sunday, a baby was healed of leukemia. A woman was healed of another issue, serious issue. And when I saw that happen, I realized that whatever this was, it was going to come true. So for the last almost 15 years, we've been all over the world doing this healing ministry. What I've learned about God, though, in the midst of all this, whether it's preaching or teaching or healing, is that He's good and that I can trust Him and He knows what He's doing. So if you're healed and somebody else isn't, that's God's choice. I'm just praying. All my job is to pray. God's wisdom is always right. His judgment's always right. His goodness is always right. And we have to trust Him.
Leaving the hospital that day, I had to phone our kids. And say, "I've got some bad news."
There is one thing that has always helped people overcome unbearable circumstances: prayer. With thousands of people reaching into our prayer lines for help and for healing, we can rely on one truth: Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever.
So the question Dr. Nell DeBoer and I set out to answer in our book, For Your Health, is how can we access God's methods for healing? Our book shines a light on biblical context of God healing humanity while also giving you scientific proof for miraculous healing. We give you awe-inspiring case studies of individuals who have defied medical odds through Jesus' power to heal us. And when we put the mystery of God, obedience to prayer, and broken health into spiritual practice, even our biggest weakness can become our greatest strength. So I pray this book will fortify you in faith. It'll inspire you to pray, to put your trust in God, and it will be healing to you, allowing God to comfort, encourage, and affect you for your health.
Call 1-800-265-3100 or donate online at crossroads.ca/donate.
You know, Greg, I loved what Paul Teskey said in that clip. The last comment was trust.
Yes.
And, you know, I know that when we talk about healing, sometimes people have some issues with it and they just don't believe in it. I would encourage you to get this book, For Your Health, a look into God's methods for healing. I know many of you have been encouraged with hearing stories of healing. Maybe you're looking for healing right now, or maybe you just have a lot of questions. This book also documents many of the stories that you've seen throughout this series about healing, including Paul Teskey's, but it also gives great principles when it comes to healing, maybe answers a lot of those questions that you might be a little weary about or you have questions about. Again, the name of the book is For Your Health, a look into God's methods for healing, by our CEO, Lorna Dueck, as well as her co-author, Dr. Nell DeBoer.
And I, have really appreciated it. It's built up my faith reading the book and seeing the stories, because I prayed for a lot of people, and they haven't always gotten well by our understanding of physical healing here.
Yep.
And it just builds up the faith. And I'm just always reminded, hey, you know what? God is still in the healing business.
Absolutely.
And we just believe in it so much. Well, coming up next, we've got Danielle Strickland. She has been our guest Bible teacher all this week. And she challenges our understanding of the popular Bible story, one of my favorites, Moses with the burning bush. Let's have a look.
There's a story way back in the beginning of the Bible. It's in the book of Exodus, and it's Moses, and he's being called by God. And there's this burning bush that appears in the middle of the desert. He's just looking after some sheep in the desert, and all of a sudden he notices that there's this bush that's on fire, but the bush isn't burning up. And so the scripture says he goes over to see what's going on, and instantly he has this encounter with God. I love the story for many, many reasons, but one of the main reasons I love it is when God is interacting with Moses, you kind of think it's about Moses. I mean, we have this inclination that like encounters with God are about the people who have the encounter. But God quickly says to Moses, Moses, can you hear that? And Moses is like, what? What? Like what? Hear what? And God says to Moses, can you hear the cry? Like, my people are crying. And he identifies himself as this: I'm the God who hears the cry. I mean, this is like even before Jesus, because Jesus is this answer, the ultimate deliverer to the crying need of the world, to those people who are lost, who are forgotten, to this incredible cry. Can you imagine how deafening that cry must be if God is the God who hears the cry? Every person who feels stuck, everyone who's stuck in oppression, everyone who feels forgotten, everyone who is lost needs to have this encounter with the God who identifies himself as the God who hears the cry. Listen, you might be praying prayers that nobody else knows that you're praying. Prayers of desperation, prayers of help, prayers that are saying like, is there even anybody out there? And the answer is yes. Not only is there somebody out there, there is a God who loves you. You can find this even through the person of Jesus, who's willing to leave even the heaven to come down and to say, I see you. You are not alone. I have not forgotten you. Can you hear the God who hears the cry? This is the question. And Moses, of course, says like, whoa, I love this encounter. But the encounter with God is not just for Moses. It's for him, but it includes much more than him. See, when we have encounters with the God who hears the cry, it means that he's inviting us into this redemption plan that he has for the whole world. I wonder if you've heard the cry of God, but also the cry of people in this world, on this earth right now, who are longing for deliverance, who are longing for freedom, who are longing for healing. I pray that you'll encounter the God who hears the cry, and you can help him answer it.
Thanks to you, Danielle. We so appreciate having her on the program. I just love that, the God who hears our cries. You know, and I was listening to your interview with Jonathan, and, you know, I was thinking, you know, was I bullied? And I was thinking, not really. I think I was kind of a bigger guy. Yeah. I was into sports, and I took the martial arts and that kind of thing. I wasn't afraid to go behind the schoolyard to prove how tough I was. Yeah. But what really haunts me, Maggie, and maybe others as well, is that when, you know, you get the group mentality, and I remember one guy we're picking on, and, you know, he was overweight, and it was just awful. And not that I was the one that was aggressively saying the things, but I was the guy standing there, and I regret it. I wish I would be the guy that would say, hey, guys, you know what, just leave this guy alone. And, you know, and if I bullied you, hopefully I didn't, you know, offend too many people along the way, but if I did, I'm sorry. And, you know, over time I've been able to, you know, on Facebook, people that maybe had issue with and able to apologize. So I just think it's something that I regret, but I know that God forgives me, but you know, it's one of those things you just wish you could do a redo on.
Yeah, I think all of us are guilty of being bystanders at some point. I know, you know, Jonathan Mckee talks about it in his book. I think I was guilty of that at times, seeing people being treated poorly and just not knowing what to do in that circumstance. Yeah, but I love what Danielle says, God hears your cry. And if you leave with nothing else from the show, know that God hears you. Maybe you're being bullied right now. Maybe you're a parent that is just struggling with a child that maybe is a bully, and you're just trying to figure out, how do I rein this kid in? Yeah. Call our prayer lines, 1-866-273-4444. These are people with life experience. I'm pretty sure one of them has been bullied or, you know, knows of that situation, and they can give you advice, and they can just pray with you. Or you can email prayer@crossroads.ca. Thanks for joining us today. Have a happy Friday.
Yeah, happy weekend.
Bye.
Come on, yes.
Thank you for your ongoing support of Crossroads, a member of the Canadian Council of Christian Charities. You can write to Crossroads, P.O. Box 5100, Burlington, Ontario, L7R 4M2.